Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things I've learned about the world that has turned me into the person that I am today. Yesterday, Friday, is the day that I do my Dear Peterisms, my Dear Peter series, where I take advice that you guys have sent me via emails and respond to them. Just life experience things, nothing of expert advice. So if you're interested in maybe having your advice question end up in a video, send me an email. The email is listed below, and put in the subject line, Dear Peter, and I will see it, and I put it into a special folder, and then I pick certain ones. But today I'm going to do kind of a different Dear Peter, and that is based on a question that a friend of mine asked. So I became friends with a fellow YouTuber about a year and a half ago. I have no idea. I was trying to think about this the other day. We were talking, and I have no idea how I initially found his channel. His name is Tanner Kearns. You guys may have heard me talk about him on other channels. He is like a 25-year-old version of Peter Monn. And so when I initially saw him, I was watching his videos and I was like, oh my God, he so much reminds me of myself at that age. And so he's kind of like my little, brother on YouTube. And I've given him advice, through the last year and a half, just based on bullshit that I've gone through. And so I said to him, I said, hey, do you have any questions you'd like me to answer in my Dear Peter series on my channel? And he said, yeah. So this is what he texted me. And I asked him if I could use his name, and he said, yeah, sure. He was like, it makes it more relatable. So if you guys want to go check out Tanner's channel, I will list it below. He's a smaller YouTuber. He's really trying to build his channel, and he's used to post videos just on Tanner's Tuesdays, but now he posts videos like on a daily basis. So anyway, he said, I need advice on how to get over friendships that are no longer friendships because the other person just vanished. Never said why they stopped talking to me. Never told me if I did something wrong. Does that make sense? I lost one of my best friends and I have no idea why. How does someone get over that? And I actually think it's a really, really good question, in the terms of kind of like giving advice based on life experience. Now, I have to say, I have been on both sides of this question. I have been the person that has been left in the dust with absolutely no understanding of why whatsoever. And I have also been the person that, in my past, I don't do this anymore, has kind of done that to people, that I've slowly moved away from somebody that I felt was like toxic in my life. Now, what's interesting, knowing Tanner, is that Tanner is a really neat guy. Like, he's just thinks everything through. He is really good to his younger sister. He's just a really, he's a man of character. I really find it hard to believe that he was toxic to somebody else's life, if that makes sense. So then you have to go in there and you have to ask yourself, like, when maybe I'm too close to the advice or the person to give this kind of advice, but if I was talking to him on the phone, what I would say is, like, Tanner, tell me the conditions of the situation. And I think, like, when you look at your friendships, you have to see, what did that friendship serve? Like, what was the purpose of that friendship? The only reason I have ever distanced myself from somebody in the past, or just kind of like stopped being friends with that person, is if I found them to be toxic to my life, or, like every time I was with them, they were negative. Because other than that, I don't have that many friends in my life that I would want to get rid of any friends, if that makes sense. But when you're friends with somebody and you're just negative and you're just Debbie Downer all the time, it's like too much. It's like, okay, I can't deal with this. The thing is that it's really hard to say to somebody, I love you and I love our friendship, but you are so negative all the time. And the people that I have said that to in my life, like, hey, listen, and this is usually how I phrase it, because I went through a period of my life where I was very negative on a daily basis. In fact, I asked my husband, I said, this was probably like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago. I said, what is something that you want from me going into the next year? And he goes, I want you to be positive on a daily basis. And I actually gave him a picture that year of me smiling, which he still keeps next to his bed. And because I was like, I'm going to work on being positive every year or every day for the next year. For me, it's something that I really struggle with in life, and I think as an alcoholic and an addict, I wake up on a daily basis seeing the glass is half empty. So I really have to work at being positive, being cheerful, seeing the hopeful in things instead of seeing the desperation and the negativity. The more you work on it, the more you find it in other things. Does that make sense? But for those of us that sit around and we go, woe is me, why did this friend leave me? A lot of times we have to look at, what was my part in that? Now, I have a friend of mine this is a very, very similar situation, that one day she and I were extremely close, and the next day, poof, I was just out of her life. And there was no clear message why. We have a joint friend that we were the three of us. And I would say to this friend, I don't understand, like, what happened? What did I do? She would say, I don't know. Like, we don't talk about it. I don't know what happened. And we just slowly got further and further apart. And my friend ended up moving out of state, moved far away. We really never talked about it. And it was really devastating to me. There was a point where I was coming home every day and just kind of sitting on the front porch. And, you know, I'm not a person that has a lot of really close friends in my life. And so the friends that I do have are very important to me. There was a point when I was like coming home every day and sitting on my front porch and playing solitaire on my phone. And I remember, you know, like Alex said to me, my husband Alex said to me one day, he said, I don't know what to do to help you, but like, I can't sit by and continue to watch this every day, you know? He was like, it just makes me so sad. And he was like, this is kind of ruthless what they did to you. And what's so weird is that when he would say something like that to me, or when somebody else would say something, I was still so defensive of that friend inside, you know? Even though I knew that he had my best interest in mind, they didn't have my best interest in mind. So, you know, years go by. I've talked to this person. We've had several interactions. Every time we get together or they're in town or whatever, it's always kind of conflictual. So like 2 years ago, this person was in town and we sat down and we had a conversation. And I said, I want to know what that was about. And I know what it was about. It was about a past relationship that they were in, and they felt like I inserted myself into the middle of it. But that's not the way that I see it. I see that both of these people used me to pit each other against each other. And I was just the person that got used for that. My part is that I chose to allow myself to be in that situation, if that makes sense. And I think at looking at any kind of friendship, you have to be willing to take a look at what is my part in that. And so, you know, in looking back on that relationship, I should never have been given any relationship advice to two friends of mine. I should never have, like, when they were in a fight, like, gone and picked one up. And I mean, I just shouldn't have, you know, I should never have gotten involved in that. And I think that my friend was really hurt because I think that she felt like I was picking the other person. And so we sat down and talked, and she said, you know, I said, what did I do? And she was like, you know, it's just so long ago. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're past that. And it was interesting that she felt past that, but I didn't feel past that. And I was like, okay. And she was like, you know, like, are there questions you need to ask me? And I was like, yeah, like, I don't understand what happened. And her response kept on being, I mean, we've talked about it, we're past that. But we really never had. And so what was interesting was that her perspective over the friendship and the situation was completely different than my perspective over the friendship and the situation. And you know, since that time, it's just, we have grown more and more distant. And what I've realized is there is a part of my heart that will always love her. If she needed something from me, I would be there for her. You know, I will always remember the good times. But I do believe very much, and I talk about this in my vlog a lot, that people come in our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And as much as I would have said, you know, 6 years ago, this person is a lifetime friend, like, seriously, like, ride or die, they'll be in my life for the rest of my life. I don't believe that today. I think they were a seasoned friend. And I think I learned a lot from the friendship. You know, they meant a lot to me. I had a lot of really good times with them. I have a lot of great memories. And that's what I have to kind of take moving forward. But, you know, there were a couple years where when she would come into town, I would kind of disillusion myself to believe that the friendship was still there and it was going to be exactly like it was before. And then by the end of the trip, what I would realize was that was over. Like, that stage of our friendship was over, and I couldn't continue to romance or entertain this friendship that no longer existed. So, you know, today it's really sad, kind of. Not so much for me, but for her, because I don't really have the same emotional attachment that I used to have, you know? We used to talk every day. I never talked to her. I only hear about her through friends. You know, if I picked up the phone and I called her, we'd have a nice conversation. There's no hard feelings between us. I love her, she loves me. The friendship's just over, you know? And I think at some point in life, you have to realize that friendships do end, you know? That sometimes they have served their purpose and moved on. When I worked at the organization that I worked at, you know, for 13 years, I had very, very close friendships. And I thought these people would be in my life for the rest of my life. I mean, honest to God, I talked to them on a daily basis. We went out to dinner. I thought these people are going to be in my life for the rest of my life. And it was a wake-up call. You know, when I left, I didn't hear from anybody, nobody. And I left in January. My mom passed away in May. And when I was at her funeral and I looked out in the church and I saw in one pew all of the people that I used to work with sitting together, in a way, it felt a little uncomfortable. It felt a little intrusive. You know, today I can look back on that and say that was really amazing that they were that supportive, even though my relationship with them had ended. Now, I will say, you know, years later, 10 years later, I have reconnected with some of those people and we're friends again, but not like we were when we worked together. And I think, you know, for me, I just have to be really honest about what friendships are like in my life. And, you know, today I realistically only have 2 or 3 ride or die friends. Honest to God, I do. And that I would do anything for. And if they called me in a second, I'd be there and all that kind of stuff. And it's hard, you know. I have a friend of mine, no, it's not Tanya, but I have a friend of mine that says, I don't really have, at this stage of my life, the investment to start making, you know, like a lot of new friendships. I just don't, you know. At 45, it's hard to meet somebody for the first time, you have no history with that person, you know. And I think a lot of times, history is what really binds friendships together. And I think when you don't have a history and you're starting that over, it's hard to make friendships, especially later in life, you know, and trust people again. I will say this, is that for a long time after this, I didn't really trust people to become friends. I put people at a distance, and I'm not there today, you know. Although I don't have this need to have, you know, 6 or 7 best friends that I call on a daily basis or whatever, I would like to meet new people and have new friends. And I think that life is about meeting new people and having new friends and new experiences. And whether that's a ride or die, or whether that's somebody that you go out to dinner with once a week or every other week or whatever, you know, for me, it's going to meetings with somebody or something like that, you know, that relationship can be new. And sometimes you have to look at that the loss, you know, like when one door closes, another door opens. And, you know, the loss of one friendship kind of makes way for maybe possibly another friendship out there. So I think it's a really good question, and I think it's something that we've probably all lived through in our lives before. You know, the missing out of a relationship or the grieving of a relationship or a friendship that was there. And I really do believe sometimes that grieving a friendship or a relationship, whether it's a work relationship or whatever it is, sometimes is harder than, you know, grieving the loss of a romantic relationship because of the kind of like intimacy that you have in a friendship that sometimes you don't even have in a romantic relationship. Anyway, I hope that helps you guys. Tanner, I hope that helps you. I will link Tanner's information below. He's really working hard to grow his channel, so go check him out. And I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.